I got a chance, I gotta dance. Today I boxed up my excuses with other useless things. Took 'em down to the Goodwill store, and I put take a risk the top of my list of things to do, yeah. And if I've never, ever done that step before, if I got a choice, I got a chance, I gotta dance. Ooh, it feels so good. Rocking out in the real world like that scaredy cat. Never would. Today I broke down some walls and installed a couple windows and a door. And I can smell that honeysuckle as I buckle on my shoes. Yeah. And I won't be listening if you're dismissing my dreams anymore. If I got a choice, I got a chance, I gotta dance. Well, I got a choice, and I got a chance, so I'm gonna dance.
Jan Seides, oh my God, that was this is a song that so resonates with my soul, because and the thing about dancing is that I have to look at it in the broadest of metaphors, because the dance is not, it is a movement, it is a flow, but it's keeping it whatever that individual rhythm is.
Right.
Tell me the history of that song.
Okay. There actually is a kind of sizable story about this that I'll allude to later if it comes up. I had hurt my back, and I had been fairly smug about how I had never hurt my back.
That's right.
So,
I've never.
Yeah, I totally deserved it. What happened was we were traveling. There was a bunch of stuff to get out of the car, and it was cold and wet, and I don't like being cold and wet, so I grabbed everything I could find a place to hang it off my body.
Yeah.
And I went up the stairs to our hotel room, and on the way up the stairs, I kind of felt something happen, but it didn't hurt.
No.
It's not a problem. So I just kept going, and the next morning, we left the hotel and went back home, and the morning after that, I woke up, and I thought, it was like closing in on January.
Yeah.
And I had never raked the leaves off the lawn, so I thought I should get up and rake the leaves because the neighbors would probably appreciate it.
Sure.
And I got out of bed, put my feet on the floor, and that was as far as I got. Because that moment on the stairs, that was a problem.
Yeah.
So eventually, like after a few days, I realized I just couldn't, if I had to park on the other side of the parking lot, it meant I was going home, not going to the store. So I got one of those handicapped hangers.
Yeah.
And it was temporary, and it had an expiration date on it, which I ignored for a week or two because, God, you get spoiled so fast when you have one
Are
of
you
those.
kidding?
Yeah, park right next to the door, you bet, that's me.
Yep.
And I thought when I did finally notice the expiration date that I was going to be sad when that was over.
Yep.
But on the day it was over, I put it in the trash can and I wrote that song.
How cool.
Yeah.
Well, this is the songs come out of your story, right?
Absolutely.
And we were talking about earlier, because the thing that I want to bring around this is that there are so many stories in the billions of people that have lived on the planet, and each one has this magnificent story. And here we are, and we look out at people, and there is this extraordinary. You see a person, and there's a whole life there. there's a whole life of the challenges and the people and what they've done. I no longer look at them I'm opening my heart and a compassion for them and what their stories. And that is what you have done with your new book and your new CD, right?
I've been fascinated by this idea since as far back as I can remember. You see other people, like you're sitting on a bus and you see somebody running to the bus stop because they're about to miss the bus.
Yes.
And it's one tiny little piece of their life. Yeah, and I can't help but wonder what the rest of their life is like.
And what was the rest of their life before that?
Yeah,
and how did they get to that in one instant?
Yeah, and how come they're late for the bus?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, what got you this project that you have, which is unsung, right? Tell me about that and tell me about the history of that.
Okay. It actually grew out of the same incident because while I was in pain from what I'd done to my back, I wrote a song that was based on my daughter's Torah portion when she was bat mitzvah.
Yeah.
And the portion was Sarah Laughed. And it was about how when Sarah heard the angel saying that they were going to have a baby, and they're both over 100 years old, and she's outside the tent listening. Not intentionally, I don't think, but she heard it nevertheless, and she laughed. But she laughed silently inside herself, right? And then she came in, and the angel who was giving them all this good news said, "Why did you laugh?" And she denied it. And I was thinking about, yeah, I mean, you know.
That's exactly. That is those are one of those crystallizing moments in our lives.
Yeah. So, first of all, if somebody had told me if I'm 101 and somebody says you're going to have a baby, I will not laugh.
No.
So, but I got to thinking about how hard it is to believe in miracles when you're suffering.
Yeah.
You know, if you're in pain, it feels like you're always going to be in pain. And I mean, you know, like when you're having a bad day, all you can think of is all the bad things that happened.
That's all. That's the perspective. It's like what is that? The metaphor of it's like you're in this hole and all you see is this tiny little piece of the sky, and and that looks like the whole sky.
Yeah. And as far as you can tell, it is the whole sky. Not very big, not impressive, and surely there's no help coming from there.
No.
Yeah. So it was on the same trip, and I'm sitting in the car waiting to leave the hotel and go home, and I'm thinking about this Sarah Laughed portion, and I'm thinking about miracles, and, you know, and the song called Sarah Laughed was born. And I continued to write it in my head all the way home. We were in Louisiana, so I had a good long time to do that.
Sure.
Yeah. So it was finished, and I did it on stage, and this woman came up to me after I'd played it one evening, and she said, "You know, you ought to read this book I just read. It's all about women in the Bible. It's called Women in the Bible." Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, I can find that.
Yeah, there you go.
And I read it. But, you know, this is long past the injury and long past the throwing out of the handicap hanger and all of that. And I'm reading this book and I'm thinking, well, but because one of the people whose story never really gets told, there's 2 sentences about her in the Bible, is Leah. Leah was responsible for 8 of the 12 tribes. Those were her babies, you know?
Okay.
And she gets 2 sentences in the Bible? I'm sorry, that's really not enough, don't you think? So I wrote the song that Leah would have sung in my Jan world, you know. And I played that out too. And then I was having a good time researching stuff, and I had all these books I'd surrounded myself with so I could write that song. And it just became this thing I was doing every once in a while. Oh, well, here was the other piece. I was involved with a group of people that every once in a while we'd get together and we'd write a song a day for 2 weeks. And at the end of the day, you had to have your song up on whatever was the convenient vehicle online so that other people could listen to it.
Perfect.
Yeah. And I just resolved I'm going to do one of those biblical songs every time we do this, at least one. Mm-hmm. Right? So by the time this next thing happened, I had about 7 of them. And it was pretty clear we were headed kind of for an album, but we were taking our time about it. And are you familiar with Folk Alliance? It's this kind of umbrella
No.
group for mostly folk musicians and folk dancers and stuff
Sure.
like that. But of course, all the singer-songwriters like myself, we all glommed onto it because it's
Oh yeah, we're gonna
Yeah.
own this too.
yeah,
Sure,
it's a
we're
perfect
folk.
milieu for
We're
us.
folk.
Yeah. So they have conferences. They have a big national conference, and it's huge. And it costs a lot of money. So what I do is the little regional ones, and we have one coming up. And it usually happens around the end of September.
Mm-hmm.
We have one coming up here in Austin. This one is always in Austin. And at this particular conference, and this is not true of all the regional ones, but it is true here, on the first day, around the pool at the hotel, we have an open mic. And there's
Nice.
this one person who attends every year, and he's a DJ for a station in Chicago, WFMT, that has a show called Midnight Express. And he likes my music. He's played my music before. And as a matter of fact, it's syndicated all over the country. And because he played my music, I had an audience in New York State where I've never been.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
It is. But he himself is kind of gruff and aloof, and I was pretty intimidated by him. And, thank you for liking my music. I'm sorry I interrupted you, But he walked up to me after I did one of these songs at the open mic by the pool, and he said, "Tell me about that song." So I said, "Well, it's one of currently 7, and I told him the same story I
Right.
just told you. And it turns out he's not gruff, he's not aloof, he's shy. Yeah.
That's the interesting thing about it is that I have found that arrogance always comes from insecurity. It never comes from openness and generosity. I know whenever I have been short, it's always been because I've been afraid or I have been concerned. It's never out of the openness. It never comes out of this whole dominant connect place where I'm off-putting. It's never out of the openness.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he's a remarkable human being.
How wonderful, and
Yeah.
how wonderful that you reached that. And so you ended up with this idea for one of the things that I've been really interested in is that in our reality here in the fall of 2018, we're going through what I feel like is a rise of the divine feminine. We're getting a chance
Your lips to God's ears.
we're
Yeah.
getting a chance to have these powerful women voices like you, like Donna, like Melissa, my wife, like there's a rising, Jan, there's a rising of this of the female voice that to balance. We've been out of balance
For
and
centuries.
exactly, and that's what I feel like, and what you're doing with this CD with Unsung and the book that you're writing is that you're helping us to achieve balance by giving voice to the stories, because I can see myself all through history, because the stories were written, and certainly within the recorded stories, of white males. We are the heroes of the stories, and you're getting a chance to give voice to the incredible important stories that just didn't get the same press.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what he said, the DJ person, was, if you finish that album, if they're all of that quality, I think that'll be a breakout album for you. So I scurried home. Yeah, and over a period of, way faster than I would have done it otherwise. The rest of the songs were written, we recorded them. I got on stage and sang a few of them in front of somebody who came up to the stage afterwards and said, "I really like those songs. Are you planning to do a book?" And I wasn't before he mentioned it, but So I scurried home. Yeah, I mean,
So scurrying is part of your creative process.
apparently.
You need to scurry, then create, and have that. That's when you know you're ready.
Yeah, it's always been that way. There's been a trigger, and then I go write it, you know? And those two items were the triggers. And the
How
result is
lovely.
like this whole thing that's bigger than anything I've done before, but it's also juicier, Yeah. I mean, I think about the stuff that I read researching for these songs. I think about it all the time now.
Good. Well, can you give us an example, or can you play something for us? Or
Absolutely.
I would love to.
And I can even show you the book because I've got the proof.
Oh, I would love that.
This was the first one.
All right, and give us a little background on it, so we'll know what would we
Okay.
need to know about it.
So for those who don't know, after Abraham and then Isaac, his son, and then Isaac's son, Jacob. And Jacob...
Is this through the Judaic tradition?
Yes.
And so
Old Testament.
in the Islamic tradition, his other son,
Ishmael.
Which would be Ishmael, and so that's the other line. So this is the Jewish line, the Judeo line, right?
Right.
Good.
I tried to do something about Hagar and Ishmael, but the story is just way too complicated for a song, so...
Oh, yeah.
Not that these others are less complicated,
No,
but there was a thread I could follow.
and there is a thread that you can follow, and you also have a connection there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there was more than one connection with this, because Jacob did something dastardly to his brother and had to leave in a hurry. And he ended up at his uncle Laban's house, and Laban had two daughters. And they were Rachel and the one who's singing in this song. And Rachel was pretty and lively and therefore much more interesting to the male population, including the male population that solidified this story. So there's lots of stuff about Rachel in the story.
Yep.
2 sentences about Leah.
All right.
Okay. As far back as I remember, I was always Rachel's sister. Sometimes I think that started before she was even born. She was lively, she was clever, and everybody loved her. And when the men came looking, it was Rachel they looked for, not me. I was Rachel's sister. Jacob saw her fetching water, asked if she was Laban's daughter, and she ran home to let us know to make room for one more. I fell in love that night at dinner. He never saw for watching her, and when the meal was over, it was Rachel he asked for, not me. Rachel's sister. This is the story as it is written, but those were the lives we were living. Here is the truth, not the one that others told. It's the one that I know. I am Rachel's sister. They said Jacob was the trickster, but my father brought me forward on Rachel's wedding day, draped in veils upon his arm. But then Jacob worked the harder, and for Rachel too he bartered. Still, I thought I'd win him when each new son was born to me. Rachel's sister. But every night I'd hear her whisper, give me sons like you gave my sister, and prove that you love me. Prove you love me more. So then one night he did it, and little Joseph was his favorite. But Rachel died in childbirth when her second son was born, leaving me, Rachel's sister. This is the story as it is written. Those were the lives we were living. Here is the truth, not the one that others told. It's the one that I know. I am Rachel's sister. Every now and then I wonder, is he still thinking of her? Though I'm the one that keeps him warm when the nights are cold. Did she love him as I love him? Or did she just love to win? But she is blessed memory, so I will never know. I am only Rachel's sister. This is the story as it is written. Those were the lives we were given. Here is the truth, not the one the old men told. It's the one that I know. I am Rachel's sister, and it can only be told by Rachel's sister.
What a powerful story of the consciousness of someone who was unsung.
And plus the sister dynamic. I've got two sisters. I understand that dynamic.
Yeah. And it is as modern. That story is the story that we all have. I think that's where the power, when we talk about the stories and when I connect with them, it's because it's my story. Mm-hmm. I can understand, I can resonate with it because when it's something that all of us have experienced.
Yeah, and we've been human since the beginning of time.
Do you, when you read this story, do you just use the Old Testament as the source material, or do you research more into any of the stories to learn about them?
I research more as a rule, but of course I always start with, okay, what's in the Bible? And I do speak a little Hebrew and I can read Hebrew, but I wouldn't attempt to read the Bible in its original language because...
And we're getting, our executive producer is saying that we have 3 minutes that we're going to continue
Oh my goodness.
to have.
Can
I want to see the book.
Yeah.
I want to see this.
I want you to see it.
This is unsung. This is one of the proofs that's...
Yes. This is, it's gone to press as of Tuesday.
Oh my goodness! This is you barely have this is the amniotic fluid is still on.
Pretty much, yeah.
Congratulations!
I should say here that these the watercolors are by Vanessa Lively. That's who I teamed up with. I do the line drawings, and she does. Yeah, it's.
Oh,
let me show you
God,
the first
that
one
is
I
just
saw.
So beautiful.
When she sent this one back to me, I had sent her this drawing, and when she sent it back with the background on it, I could hardly believe it was the same thing.
Oh, That is just so beautiful. Would you play us out? Will you play us
I
out with us
will.
something else
I
from?
will. This is in there too. So I went hunting for humor. Have you ever gone looking for humor in the
Yes.
Bible? There's not a whole lot in there. You kind of have to bring the humor with you when you come.
Exactly, but I think that they took that out. I think it was there, but we sanitized it for its own,
Yeah.
and you're putting it back.
Power to the humorous.
That's right.
Dear Mama, you ask if I am enjoying my place as Solomon's latest wife. Yeah, it's got its moments. What can I say? It's a life. Right now, I'm his darling, and I'm calling that a plus. Though the other wives say his attentions will fade when a new face inspires his lust. That's why there's so many of us. No, Mom, he doesn't sing like his father did, at least not when he's with me. But he's built a beautiful temple, Mama, and he writes decent poetry. Oh, he's a glorious king, to be sure, and masterful in the boudoir. And you might think that's all he is good for, but really, he's pretty smart. Just last week, 2 women quarreled about a baby they both claimed. When he offered to cut the child in 2, we all thought he'd gone insane. But it sure got that knot untangled. So if he doesn't sing like his father did, he's still all right with us, 'cause he's built a beautiful temple, Mama, and his poetry makes us blush. Well, Mom, I gotta go now. I'll try to write more later, 'cause it seems there's a queen needs my room for a bit, and they say that she's wealthy and oh so bewitching. And the king's so excited he's positively twitching, and I just became second rate. But oddly enough, I don't hate her, 'cause he doesn't sing like his father did, and I'm bored with his poetry. So though he's built a beautiful temple, Mama, she can have him, it's okay with me.
Who is that song?
It's one of Solomon's wives.
One of them. How wonderful! Thank you for sharing this proof with me. Where are you taking this, Jan? Where's this calling you to share it?
Well, I already got to do it all over Israel, so that was fun.
What was that experience like?
Oh, it was amazing. People would correct my pronunciation of things. Yeah, I mean, because they live here.
Yes.
Yeah. It was wonderful. I've been wanting to go to Israel since I was 14 years old, so it was a lifelong dream. And playing these songs for people who lived there, yeah, it was the best. Now, I just want to spread the word.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.